Fox Weather Alert, though, looking at this. Flooding in New Mexico, ripping a house off its foundation, while the death toll in Texas continues to climb. The shocking number of people still missing.
All right, so we begin with this Fox News Alert. Search and rescue efforts continue this morning in central Texas as floodwaters begin to recede and expose the full scale of the destruction.
At least 111 are dead and more than 170 are still missing as President Trump prepares to visit the region on Friday.
There's never been a wave like this outside of the breaking of a dam. This was almost a wave that ended up being 30 feet high. I'll be going down on Friday with First Lady, who will be taking a trip.
Brooke Taylor is live in Kirk County, Texas with more. Good morning, Brooke.
Hi, good morning, Griff. Now that it's light out, I could give you a look at some of the damage right now. We have been here for several days, and it's just as shocking. This is the Guadalupe River right here, which swallowed everything in sight. You can see trees like that just snapped in half, and it goes on for what seems like miles and miles. And if you walk with me this way, you can see piles of debris like this. First responders have to go through this dense debris. It is treacherous conditions out here. We're in the Texas heat, but rescue teams and first responders understand the importance of their difficult task to locate 170 people. The death toll right now at 111, including 30 children just in Kerr County. Most of these children who tragically died were campers at Camp Mystic. The youngest children were in cabins closest to the river. Pictures inside the cabins show the aftermath, just heartbreaking. You have rows of bunk beds, muddied mattresses, pink and purple sleeping bags, and trunks scattered. Here are the faces of some of those young campers, as young as 8 years old. They were in bed and in pajamas when the Guadalupe River surged 26 feet in just 45 minutes early Friday morning. The deaths, though, they extend beyond the camp as the raging river pulled people from across 6 different counties from their homes and trailers, dragging them miles past floating trees and cars. Governor Greg Abbott toured this mass devastation on Tuesday.
To put this into perspective, just in the Kerr and Kendall counties alone, there are far more fatalities than there were in Hurricane Harvey. That's how catastrophic this is.
That is some perspective to think about there. The National Weather Service issued a warning of potential life-threatening flash flooding around 1 a.m. Friday. Local officials here in Kerr County dodged questions at a press conference about who was in charge of monitoring this storm and whether there were any discussions to evacuate people. Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick says he's not blaming anyone, but emergency sirens could have saved lives, something neighboring counties have in place. In Kerr County, though, no such system exists because years ago, funding issues prevented them from being installed. An inspection report we're learning just 2 days before the flooding shows that state inspectors signed off on Camp Mystic's emergency plan in case of a disaster. It's important to mention, though, I have been talking to so many families who lost their young little girls at Camp Mystic. These families have nothing but deep love for the camp and the director who heroically died trying to save some of these young girls, guys.
Thank you, Brooke. Incredibly sad. Yeah. And we go to a Fox Weather Alert. At least 3 people are dead in New Mexico, including 2 children, after monsoon rains triggered flash flooding yesterday in Ruidoso. The force so powerful that an entire house was swept downstream.
Oh no.
Noticed that earlier.
That water rising more than 20 feet. Emergency crews carrying out at least 85 rescues so far, and New Mexico's governor signing an emergency declaration asking for help from the federal government.
All right, so let's check in with our senior meteorologist, Janice Dean, for our Fox weather forecast. What's coming, Janice?
Well, let's take a look at the radar yesterday afternoon in New Mexico, Ruidoso. So we had a flood warning and then a flood emergency that happened. And of course, you saw the video. And it's because we have several burn areas. So when you have wildfires that burn, they take out the vegetation. It's hard for the rain to be absorbed. And also you've got, the river running through those mountains, and it just forces water down a very narrow pathway. And we had a record crest, but the last time we had a record crest was this time last year. So this is going to be a problem throughout the monsoon season when you have these afternoon thunderstorms because of the shift in the winds, and the atmosphere is ripe for thunderstorms. So there is the latest preliminary report, 20 feet. The same type of scenario that we saw in Texas. All of this water is forced down the river bed, and because things are so dry, it just races down and causes flooding. So flood alerts for the next day or so through Wednesday for this area. We are going to see the potential for flash flooding because it is monsoon season. This is the time that we see it. Also want to make mention, we have a precarious situation across the mid-Atlantic, parts of the Northeast, where we could see flash flooding today because of the remnant moisture from Chantal, and we have a stalled out front. And if I could just show you the severe storm threat today for millions of folks across the mid-Atlantic, and looking at Texas, still watching the weather here. Certainly not the heavy rain that we saw on Friday and Saturday, but still any more rain is going to cause some exacerbated issues. We'll continue to keep you up to date. Over to you.
There you go. Thank you, Janice.
Of course.